our notes up there, and I think we are now ready to take off. So, okay, welcome everyone to Global Leader for our third class of the semester. And today we're going to launch into essentially what will become the standard format through the semester with guests. Today is a guest class. What we've had for the past 2 weeks was just setting things up and lecture classes, and I will do those from time to time. But when we have a guest, as we do today, there will be a much shorter lecture, more or less my way of just setting up the guest. That will be the lecture. Then we're going to let the guest take over and interact with the guest. And the idea with all of the guests that we bring to the global classes is that they are global leaders, emerging new leaders of some sort, people that you can really interact with and learn from in terms of their experiences and most importantly, in terms of today's theme, taking action. That's really what we're going to be looking at today. The guest who you see right now in a picture on the video wall, and you will meet very shortly. He's in right now the classroom, but he's just waiting to join us. He's right now sitting at home in Dhaka, in Bangladesh, very, very far away. We're talking probably about halfway around the world, so maybe, I don't know, 15,000 kilometers away, perhaps, if I do my math correctly, or even more than that. And you can see, for example, on the map, to orient yourself to where he is right now, he is in a very small country, just northeast of India, and it is, in terms of its size, tiny, Bangladesh. But in terms of its population, it has one of the largest populations in the world, around 300 million or 350 million people. So we're talking about a country that we might say punches way above its weight, in that it's small, it has a lot of people, but what happens there is actually quite influential increasingly. And to give you an idea of how important Bangladesh is becoming, this summer they had a kind of democratic revolution there that led to the overthrow of a government. And in terms of taking action to fight against an old government and install something freer and more democratic, what the young people did in Bangladesh is quite remarkable. Our guest today, Aftab Hussain, knows all about that. But even more than that, in terms of taking action, Aftab has been taking action before any of that began in Bangladesh. And he actually began a campaign last year to change some of the building codes in Bangladesh after a terrible fire that killed many people, including one of his students. He's going to tell you all about that in a moment. He teaches at Daffodil International University in Dhaka and Bangladesh. He has a long association with the global class, having started as a young student participating in the global class probably 10 or 12 years ago. And since then, he has really risen on his own grit and intelligence and scholarliness and energy and vision. And now he is the head of the journalism program at Daffodil International University, and is even taking on more senior positions at this large international university there. And we could say, quite conceivably, that he is an emerging leader in that part of the world. And he is someone I think we need to watch. And he's going to join us today to update us on the campaign that he began, as well as the democratic changes that are taking place there. So we'll come to Aftab in a moment, but let's bring him in for a second, okay? And see Excellent, Maureen. So we'll bring him in full screen. Way to go. It helps so much now that we've got Maureen on the video wall. Well, I can concentrate on this. I don't have to do both at once, which just is way too much to handle in my bandwidth. I can now just deal with the talking part and interacting. So first, before we get going, I just want you to take a look at this wonderful young man who's joining us. There he is in Dhaka. And Aftab, I'm just sort of setting things up right now for the students to get them ready. And then in about 5 minutes, please be prepared to update us on your campaign, to take leadership in Dhaka, to change the building codes after the kind of, let's say, corruption around how land is owned and buildings are designed in Dhaka resulted in a fire in a restaurant that was pretty devastating. The people were trapped in this restaurant, including one of his students. And I don't want to create too dark of an image for you, but try to imagine what it would be like if you were stuck inside a room and you couldn't get out of that room. There was no proper way to get out, and that the fire that erupted in that room was so fast that there would be no possibility for you to survive. So something like 40 or 41 people died in that fire, and including one of Aftab's students. And after that, Aftab decided that he would try and organize a campaign in his country to investigate how this happened and ensure it would never happen again. Because as it happens, these kinds of tragedies are not uncommon there. We have our own tragedies in this part of the world too. I am in no way suggesting that Bangladesh has worse problems than we do. We have different problems. But the difference is that Aftab decided to do something about it. And remarkably, through the summer, we were in contact, Aftab and I and another student who has been just terrific as a champion of the global class, Ajoy. He may join us today, because it was during the summer when the young people of Dhaka began to gather in the streets and began to demand that their long-standing, largely authoritarian government be removed and be replaced with democratic reforms. And unlike a country like Venezuela right now, where the same thing is happening, young people are trying to oust a old authoritarian government. In Bangladesh, the students succeeded, and the leader of Bangladesh left the country, and now a new democratic government is being installed in Bangladesh, and they are working on changing the system there. So Aftab can speak to that as well. He's a great guest in helping us understand what it means to take action when you want to change something, okay? So there's a lot that I would like to do with you in this class today in terms of reviewing what we did, but I'm going to jump into Aftab and interact with Aftab and then see how long he can stay with us. And then we'll come back a little bit later and we'll review from last week. We'll make sure our notes are up and make sure the notes are really well populated this week, because we had some problems last week with the notes. Okay. So let me just see if there's anything else before we bring Aftab officially into the class, and you can meet somebody quite remarkable. And I think I need to just blow this up so we can make sure we have the full. Well, I won't spend too long on this. I see Ajoy is also joining us too from Dhaka, but we'll leave the world right now as it is. And in terms of tech, everything is working. Everybody can hear, everybody can see. We're up on YouTube. We have our in person students, we have our online students, we have all the students later watching the recording. Microphones are working. So before we come to all of you and begin the conversation, I want to welcome Aftab to the global class and to Global Leader. And Aftab, I know it's late there. Thank you for joining us. Are you able to stay for maybe 45 minutes or so? Go ahead.
Yes, Prof. It won't be a problem. It's 8:30 here right now. It's not late night or it's not. It's just evening.
Okay, so it's actually 10 hours ahead. Sometimes it's
Yes.
11 hours. Or great. And do I see also Ajoy? Ajoy, are you in? I can't see all the participants right now, but that's okay. Ajoy, do you want to just say hello in the live chat? Or you can jump in. I don't know if we can see it because you'll see another great. Um, oh, there he is. Good. He's here as well because Ajoy may want to join us. Aftab was Ajoy's professor at one point. But Ajoy is another young, up and coming leader. I'm telling you, something's going on in Bangladesh with young people and initiative and vision and energy. And so, in terms of global leadership, I think this is very much a country to watch. Excellent. So great, Ajoy. Glad you joined us. So Aftab, excellent. You can stay as long as you can. It's not too late, and then we'll go for about an hour, and we'll definitely let you go at 9:30 your time. Okay. So okay. In a moment, Ajoy, in a moment, Aftab, we're going to come to questions, and we're going to really have a good discussion about this idea of taking action in a complex, difficult, entangled global world. Remember last week, complexity? We talked a lot about that. And some people may think that in such a complex world, it can be overwhelming and action may seem not very possible. And some of you may think that action can be very difficult to take when you want to make positive change. You're right, it is difficult, but there are people who take action. And we have students here in this class who've done that. And of course, we have Vicky, who's back today, who's taken action. We'll be bringing her into the discussion as well. But Aftab's campaign, when he began to undertake this campaign, Aftab, can you introduce a little bit about what happened with the fire? What led you to want to begin to make some change, and how's it going? Can you update us several months later about how that campaign is going? And then we will start talking about the really big stuff that's happening in Bangladesh right now, which is a kind of democratic transformation of the country. Aftab, please go ahead.
Hello, Prof. Hello, everyone. For the first time in last 15 years, I think in global class, I'll be talking with my freedom. After 15 years, we got the freedom of speech and no surveillance. Before the classes, I always told Prof online in personal chatting that I cannot say whatever I want in the global class or any other international platform because we were under surveillance and our prime minister had to flee out, and she was drawn down by the students, by the people. And for the first time in the last 15 years, we can feel the freedom that whatever we can say what we want. We can criticize the government, we can criticize the initiatives if it is wrong, or criticism is the best practice of democracy. So from 13,000 kilometers away, hello everyone. I started just like you at the global class as a student, and now I'm teaching, but still I feel proud as a student of global class. So thank you. Welcome everyone. And I would like to say last year a tragic scenario happened where one of my students was in a building. Actually, Bangladesh wanted to become Manhattan, kind of. They were convinced by the Manhattan design. So what happened actually, some of the areas became the food areas where all the restaurants are there. There are three-fourths areas in Dhaka where all the buildings, high-rise building, like 20 floors or 25 floors, all the buildings are glass protected, total glass, and they are restaurants for 20 floors. And there would be something more than 100 restaurants in every building. So this was the scenario, and the glass building had a problem that these were protected glass, not easy to break.
We're going to bring
So
up on the wall
when
right now. We'll just keep it going silently. You'll see on the wall, Aftab, the students. So just know that there will be images of the fire as you're describing. Go
yes,
ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
so one day a place got in Dhaka, a place got fire from its kitchen,
Yeah.
and it all started with the kitchen fire from the cylinder, gas cylinder. And the gas cylinder policy in Bangladesh was, there was no policy in Bangladesh. So it started fire from a kitchen, and within 5 minutes the cylinder got blast, and the fire got the whole building. And at first 41 people died, and later from the injured, around 60 people died on that
Oh,
fire.
60.
And they died out of suffocation, not in fire. They didn't get burned because the buildings were so like Manhattan design with glasses. It was impossible to get the smoke out. So all those people actually died uh, from suffocation, smoke suffocation. uh, None of them actually were burned, but they died from suffocation. And that's why we started as a department. Actually, Daffodil International University, Bangladesh has 190 million people right now. It is the sixth or seventh largest country in the world, but with a very little space. And Daffodil International University is the largest private university, and our journalism department is the largest journalism department in Bangladesh. So we had a manpower, like our department has plus minus 500 students. So we had a manpower, and we have a strong alumni relations who are working in media and other organizations. So we had a meeting, and we tried to get into it. Why there is no law, or there, if there is a law, actually there is no law, and why the laws are not being practiced. Why there is no safety of buildings? Because according to the government, there should be fire exits everywhere, but the fire exits are so narrow that two people cannot move simultaneously.
Yeah.
So these all things where we found in our investigation. And the thing is, there is no building code. The building making code has been made, and it was not observed by the government. The root of the cause was actually the topmost government people. They are actually the businessmen. They are behind it, and they are also the member of parliament. So when the businessman takes the government, whom should we go for the law? And Bangladesh was a democracy in terms of international politics, but actually there was anarchy, monarchy going on. And we'll come back into later, like the political things. But the main thing was many buildings and many accidents, many garment factories. Bangladesh is the second largest ready-made garments producer in the world. I hope some of you know that,
Well,
after
actually, I'll
China.
stop you for a second just to help the students understand the connection here. Thanks, Af. This is great. We'll come back in 2 seconds. Do you know the company Joe Fresh, which is a international company not based in Bangladesh, but has its garment production in Bangladesh? Several years ago, the ceiling of a factory collapsed there, and a lot of people were killed there too. So, what Aftab has just said is very important in terms of the building code in Dhaka was not observed. This is very, and he will continue with this with many other things, but I just want to bring this back so students understand how this all relates to global leadership here in Oshawa, thousands of kilometers away, in a country that has a much smaller population. We're 30 million here. There, and I stand corrected. I said 300 million before. It's 190 million in Bangladesh, still huge. We might call that corruption. When there are laws and there is a kind of democracy, and people think that there are laws in place, but the laws by those in power are being ignored or are being manipulated or somehow are being used to exploit others. Global leadership is when somebody steps into this void and says, I want to make a difference. Okay? That's AFTAB. Very important. Some of you may have the same problems in your own communities, in your own street, in your own family, in your own countries back home. And you may think, oh, let somebody else take care of this. I can't change anything. Well, you can. Okay, Aftab, please keep going.
Thank you, Prof. The thing is, we try to find out, we try to say things, we try to be loud, we try to be vocal, but the thing is, we were actually suppressed by the government. The government was against us because if we try to dig into it, why the building codes were not maintained, why it is not being observed, and why it is not being followed by the people, then it will harm the businessmen, and those businessmen are actually the member of parliaments. Our previous governments, member of parliaments were actually, there was no proper democracy. One, Bangladesh became a one party state, so there was only one party for the election. So out of 330 seats, more than 300 seats were for only one party, and the others were like the individuals. They won, but they are also government's people. So 100% seat were 100% member of parliaments were from one party. So in that case, what we face, whom we should go? We can go to the court. We can go to the court for justice. But the most interesting thing is the justice system, the entire law division was also part of government. Not government like that, but these lawmakers were also the position holders of the government. So the government's team has the law, and all the police officers were actually the, we had called Chhatra League, the Students League. Those were the previous government's student wing. So if we go through our student wing politician, after your graduation, you'll go get into the police as a job, and you'll get into the lawmaking institutions. Every government organizations, the pillars of democracy, the government, the laws, and the administration, everything was controlled by one party and their people. So where can we go? We couldn't go anywhere, and even government threatened us that because they had an unofficial jail where sometimes people got into the government people or police, and there no arrest was our warrant was signed, they just make them disappear. And some people, after the government fall, many people actually got out from those unofficial jails. After 15 years, a person got arrested unofficially and got uh, abducted, and after 11 years he came back, and he found that his wife waited for him for 10 years and got married last year, because they don't know if he is alive or not. So
Wow.
apart from the regular jail, the government had many jails. Those were not found. Those were secret jails underground. So if you are correct and talking against the government, they will capture you and put you there, and you'll just disappear from everyone. One day you are going office, they will capture you and put you in the unofficial jails, and you'll get no one will trace you where you have been were gone. There is no trace. So this was the most dangerous case in Bangladesh, and whenever we tried to talk about it, and at some point we had a head to head fight against the government. But the government actually threatened us with this thing that the Bangladesh government actually threatened us that if we talk more about it, then we might get disappear. Some people actually get really disappeared because they were shoot or they got murdered, and some people got into the secret jails. We have like 24, 25 till now. In last 2 months we found 24, 25 secret jails. So that is the most mm, uh,
Let me
interesting
stop for
thing.
a second. Aftab, I'm going to stop for a second so that I can bring some students in to interact with you. They probably have questions. If not, we'll come back because this is really good information direct from somebody who's been in the middle of a transformation and has decided to do something, but is facing challenges on how that you change things. So let's just stop for a second, and I'll check and see if there are any questions. If not, we'll carry on. But this really is the kind of experience for all of you watching the recordings too that you will find will help you to understand in a very nuts and bolts way, in a very specific case study way, how against very difficult obstacles you can begin to make change. And remember, what Aftab is describing is going to develop over the summer into a much larger situation in Bangladesh where there is going to be thousands upon thousands of young people gathered in the streets who are going to then bring about the overthrow of the government. So this is really inside an amazing story. Does anyone have anything they'd like to say at this point? I'll bring the microphone. We've got to make sure that you can be heard. So let's make sure the microphone is working here. And I'll just check. It should be. Just give your name. So Aftab and Ajoy and the others joining from the round. And remember, karaoke. So talk into it. Okay. Go ahead. Okay.
Hello, Aftab. My name is RJ. I just have a question to ask you. How are these secret drills? Like you said, there was about 25 to 24 secret drills. I just want to wonder how it was like in there. Like, how was it like? How they create it and like how it's so hidden? Because I find that very very like crazy, messed up. I don't know what could even be going on in there. So I just want to know.
Great. Good, RJ. Did you get that Aftab, the question? Yeah. Great.
Could you please repeat, Prof?
Just go
I
ahead
didn't.
a little louder into the
Sorry,
microphone, and we'll see. Okay, try again. Okay, RJ,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Hi, Aftab. It's RJ again.
hi.
Okay. Yeah. So I would like to know how was it like in Baghdad the 24 jails or 25 secret jails. I want to know how it was like there, like how like it was created, what could be really going on in there, and like how it's so hidden that nobody was
Okay.
able to find that.
Well, actually, all of them were created under the army. So the army officers also were the government's people, and the chief of army was actually our prime minister's brother-in-law.
Wow.
They built inside the army quarters and the cantonment areas where the army bases. So all those secret jails were under the army. So the army bases are actually not accessible by the people in Bangladesh. This is the law. We cannot get entered there. So when they made it underground, and these are not findable by the satellite as well. These all of them were underground. So they made these secret jails at the army base camps, and they put all the people on there, and they built them under the radar. So people didn't know that this kind of, it was a myth that there is something called actually we call that in Bangla, it was like the mirror house, because you'll get only one mirror in those rooms and small jails, nothing one there is no toilet facility near, there is nothing, and people get used to that. There is only
You
one
call
time
it
food.
the mirror. Let's just. I see RJ's face. Just a second. The mirror house. MIRROR. The mirror house.
Yes, yes, it is the myth name, because people didn't know that such thing existed.
So
That's
like
the most interesting thing. And we found after August 5th that 24, 25 houses were discovered, and still we are trying to find. So it's the code name that the mirror house, we call that Ainagor, the mirror house.
so how are they
So
even getting
we
air?
don't know why it is
Um,
called the mirror house.
Good.
There is no reason, but
It-
it
Why is it
is
called?
it is
Is it? You're asking just a sec. There's a bit of a delay with questions, but we'll deal with it. It's great. RJ, what was your question?
I was asking, like he said, it was like it's built underground. So how are people breathing air, getting any fresh air?
Well, RJ, RJ's got some very
There's no toilet.
practical
He said
questions.
there's no
How are they
toilet.
surviving? Yeah, so people are put underground.
yes.
No toilet.
How did they
Mhm.
breathe? Where was the oxygen?
Well, it was built that way, and the oxygen was used to go there, and they were not like 100 feet underground, just the base level. At the base level, they were made. So there was enough passage for air pass, because they were just at the flat level. I could show, if I could show you, like if it is the base. Can you see me
Yes.
clearly?
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Like if it is,
Go
if
ahead.
it is the base, it is just here or just above the mm, uh, just above the base level of the or the main
Yeah.
earth level. So if it is like 6 inches above the base, then there are 6 inches at the top for the air to come in. But
Have you
those
ever
are,
been in a canoe that turns over, or a boat, and you get an air pocket at the top? It's
right,
like
right,
just enough air to keep you breathing,
just enough
surviving.
here.
This
Yeah.
happens all over the world, RJ, in countries. But anyways, Aftab, keep going, because for some of the students, it may be something that seems unbelievable, but for
Uh,
him, it's
just a
normal.
minute.
Go ahead.
Just
Yeah.
a minute. Uh,
Joy, is there anything that you would like to add to this? Another perspective from Dhaka? Are you
I'm
still
giving you a link. I'm giving a link in this chat box, so you
okay?
can see the picture.
Okay,
It's for
we'll get
you.
a picture, and we'll
Yeah.
see what we can do. But the idea is, Aftab's getting the picture. Think about
Yeah.
the questions you would like to ask him, and we will continue to go deeper and deeper. But remember, we're in a class called Global Leader. So try and think about, how does this relate to me understanding leadership? Vicky, go ahead. Archie, do you want to give the microphone to Vicky? Great, Aftab. So Vicky's going to ask a question, then we're going to come back to Aftab, and he's already
Sure.
showing us the cells. Yeah,
Yeah,
Vicky, go ahead.
that's quite gruesome. Hi, I'm Vicky, and I like your sweater, by the way. It's super cute. Sorry, I compliment everybody. um, so my not really a question per se, but like more like a statement. How did they get away with doing this without being caught so fast? Like, how are they able to just like to tuck it under the rug? And like, we know what's happening, but like, why is it happening? Like they're just tucking it under the rug. Like, okay, we'll just hide it. Brush it off. Nobody can find it. But eventually, the rug's gonna get so big it can't hide it no more. Kind of things. Do you
Okay.
get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Okay.
I got
Go
it.
ahead, Aftab. Yeah.
How did they get away? Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
a government is a system, a
Yes.
total system, right? It's a total system. So when they came into the power into 2008, 2009, it was all good. We were happy with the government and other things. So it was all good. But in their second term in 2014, actually, by 2014, they made the whole system under their radar. Like
Mhm.
the entire police force was recruited. The previous police officers were removed from the positions, and the top positions were actually introduced by their own people. Force retirement and force inclusion in the police. Number one, police and army. I hope you can Google it, that there was an army massacre in Bangladesh in 2009. All the top 300 army officers were on the National Army Day, gathered in a hall room, and they all were murdered, massacred. All
Mhm.
300 officers, top
Oh,
300 officers, including
Wow.
the Director General of Army, were killed within 1 hour, because all of them were unarmed, and suddenly people entered and killed them all.
Right on
So
site.
this happened in 2009. Yes. So there is no army to say anything. There is no police to capture anyone. And then by 2014, all the lawmakers, the lawyers, and the top judges, the Supreme Court, all was captured by the party's people. Only the people loyal to the party and promised to be loyal to the party were judges, Supreme Court judges, High Court judges. So there is no law, there is no administration,
Mhm.
and also the administrative people, the government people were
Yeah.
also shifted to forced retirement, and all the secretaries and chief of staffs, everyone was changed to the loyal people to the party. So you have the administration in your pocket, you have the law in your pocket, you have the enforcement in your pocket. So everyone was with the government, and also it was actually by the help of India, because
Wow.
we have some political issues with India, because Bangladesh is surrounded by India. So Bangladesh is a strategically good location for the South Asia, and U.S. politics is also here. U.S. has a very good interest in Bangladesh.
Mhm.
India has an interest. China has an interest. It is not Bangladesh's internal issue. It is actually run by everything. Every political government has their own issues with the USA, with the India, and China,
Mhm.
Russia. We have, because one of our island is the most strategic location in South Asia. If you can capture that island, that is called the Martin's Island. If you have a navy base there, you can control the entire South Asia.
Yeah.
So that's why strategically Bangladesh is very important in terms of army positioning.
that's
So
it's a great answer.
yeah.
I'll just stop you for a sec to make sure that we can uh, um, kind of process all of this and understand it in a very kind of clear way. What, as he explained that, Vicky, how you would ask, how did they get away with this?
Yeah.
In a sentence, could
Mhm.
you maybe summarize what you think is the critical insight that Aftab just gave us? This is a tough one.
Yeah.
So, how did they get away with this in a sentence? What do you think?
I'm just trying to think off the top of my head.
Yeah, off the top of your head. We
Um,
can go to Daniel. Do you want to try Daniel
okay.
as well? Okay, go ahead. Yeah, bring it over to Daniel. And because Aftab, you've given such a great answer with so much, but I want to make sure that we can have a really critical piece of information. So, Daniel, what do you think? How did they get away with this in a sentence?
Yeah, for me, how to get away with it is because they hold the government ransom. The leaders hold the government ransom.
The leaders hold the government ransom.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Did you hear that, Aftab? The leaders hold the
Yes,
government. Yeah, ransom. So
yes.
they're getting to power through being
Mhm.
elected, democracy.
yeah.
But then once they're there, they
Yes.
change it so that
They change the rules in their favor to make sure that whatsoever they do, whoever they want to deal with, they
yeah,
just have to get away without anybody have to say what are you doing or how are you doing, because
yeah,
all the people they had in the institutions, in the government top government institutions that can cause changes and make people to act the right way
Yes.
are all from their own carcass. So
Yes.
with this, it is very impossible to actually, or let me not say impossible, it is very difficult for you to be able to make the right changes
Yeah.
because why the people at the helm of affair are not easily to deal with.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I think they actually get away with it till the very extent they did before the action and the change happened.
This is good. Dan, let me stop. This is good. And I want to just make sure Aftab's okay with this because, in a way, when the guest comes into a class, a global leader like yourself, Aftab, you're, what you have to say is largely like a fire that's going to ignite the conversation. And then we can come back to you
Mhm.
and continue and maybe add another match or two to the conversation. But we have the conversation going now, and that's critical. So, Aftab, are you okay if I interact and bring other students in and then come back to you?
Yes,
You good
sure,
with
bro.
that? Okay, great. So,
Yes, bro.
Vicky, hold your thought because I want to make sure online, the students in the Cosmos, if they have anything they want to add to this, or we're going to come back to Vicky and we're going to keep going around. And remember, we have not yet even got to the critical stuff, which is how is it that the young people there or people were able to bring about the change in government? It could have gone another way. In Venezuela right now, there are protests and there are big crackdowns on people. The police and the army are on the side of the government and they're killing people there to ensure that the person who is in power remains in power illegally. He did not win the election. He lost badly, but he's using the army and he's using the military and police to stay in power. This often happens. So in Bangladesh, something positive happened, which is really interesting. But first, in the cosmos, is there anyone there? I see Peta or Abraham, Ajoy, Augustine. Please jump on your microphone, or if you can, put your comments in the live chat and we will take them up. But the best thing is to jump on your microphone, and the gold standard in the class is to share your video and your microphone, and we can really bring you in. Is there anything in the cosmos right now? Ariel, anything you'd like to add? You good?
No, I've just been listening, but I don't have anything to add right now.
Okay, good. So for all of you also online, you're welcome to add. And Ajoy, are you good as well? Is there anything you'd like to add to what's been happening in Dhaka over the last months? Dhaka, by the way, is the capital of Bangladesh. So it's the Toronto or Ottawa of Bangladesh. Big city.
So I'm just absorbing all of this information and I'm wondering how do why why is it so easy for people to think that they won't be held accountable for doing just cruel things, for lack of a better word? Like they feel like they're above the law. I don't know at what point did we get to this stage where we feel like, you know, I'll do whatever and there will be no consequences. And who is there to like do the check and balances and the regulators? Like what is happening? Why are we watching these things just happen? I can't understand why certain things are okay. It's a lot to absorb. So I'm just absorbing.
Great. Aftab, do you want to try and answer that? And then we'll come to Augustine. Augustine, hold your question. You know,
Well,
she says,
well,
go
bro.
ahead. Yeah.
First of all, I would like to answer both questions in one line. Why they get away? Because it's a part of global politics. So when why they get it's not only the government and the one person, it's a global politics. You have to understand global politics. You have to learn more about secret agencies and other things for this thing. And number two, why they feel it's the human nature, I guess. If you have the extreme power, supreme power, people gets like when people felt it, it's not the new thing. It's if you go back to the time of Jesus Christ, it's the same. If you have extreme power, you challenge the god. So that's what the human nature is. We are genetically like that. We, if we have enough power, we want more. Human nature is power hungry, so we want more and more and more. So it
It
is
has
our
been said,
human nature.
after it has
It
been
has
said.
to get in there.
I'm going to write on the board just that on that point. It's a cliche, but it's you probably will find this is very true. Aftab is saying, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Right.
Absolute
So there is
power
no check
corrupts
and balance.
absolutely. Okay, yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah, so these are my answers shortly. I think we can discuss more, and I think this is the short answer. We can discuss it later if we need. Let's listen to others first.
sure. Okay, so let's come to Augustine and then we'll come to Vicky, okay? So I saw,
Sure.
and Maureen, thanks so much for handling this because now I can do what I've been wanting to do for years. This is really just engage and keep the conversation going. Usually I'm stuck here. My mind is being pulled in 10 different directions. So this is critical, this interaction. Augustine,
Ye-
please go ahead. Yeah, ask
Yeah,
your
let me
question.
just trip in here. Just like as I mentioned, it's a government, it's a system. Like someone did mention, like, oh, why are things that happened, like in that country, like people could be cruel. Even that's because we heard of it. There's even worse thing that is happening that's happening in Bangladesh, but we didn't even people don't even know what happened or that issue even existed. You know, the way that's the way the system, the government is designed, the people that are allies to them, they put them in power, they
Yes.
position them in sensitive position.
Yeah.
So, and even if you go to some countries, there are still some president that they have been in power for over 40 years, even 30 years. If there's a certain thing that we're even mentioning now that in some country you can even say this. Because
Augustine, what can I ask you? What country are you from?
originally I'm from Nigeria.
You're from Nigeria. Okay.
Yeah.
Are you ready for a slightly difficult question? You don't have to, you know, here's the question. Okay, you decide whether you want to answer it.
Okay.
Have you in Nigeria where you are from, have you seen either directly or indirectly the same kind of problem that Aftab has been describing in Bangladesh? Yes? No?
No, it's yeah, Nigeria obviously have their own problem, but not as complex, the way we have it, they have it in Bangladesh.
Okay.
Though the system could be corrupt, maybe to some extent,
Yes.
but in Nigeria, we still have, like they still conduct election every 4 years. Maybe at times there could be a situation whereby people think that the election was rigged, but at least the election was conducted. People voted, but unlike some other country, they didn't even have the opportunity to vote. At least we see transition of government, whether 4 years to 8 years. So,
Yes.
like, yeah, generally speaking, like every country have their own issue. I know the issue in Nigeria is complex, but in Nigeria, on the other hand, they actually have a, sound system, rule of law, which perhaps is not as that complex compared to what we have in uh,
Sure.
Bangladesh.
Sure. I understand. Excellent. Let's come to Vicky, okay, and make sure she can also ask, and then we'll come back to Aftab anytime. And Aftab, please keep in mind if for some reason you have to leave or there's something that's important there, we understand, okay? But it's just great to have you in the class and sharing this because your
No problem,
example,
Prof.
you know,
I'm here.
your example really is stands as a role model in some ways. So, Vicky, please go ahead.
I can't.
And everybody's like power hungry, like it's like they're like they crave it, and once they get it, they just can't stop consuming it, kind of thing. Almost seems like some of it can be also done by DNA because if you're related to the person, sometimes get it just by being blood, kind of thing. Sometimes that over time it can just have it like there's a barrel effect. It
Yes.
can have like a dominoes or a ripple effect. It just keeps happening. The cycle just non-stop, doesn't break. It just constantly just keeps going and going until somebody else tries to break down a wall. But then when you break down one wall, there's another barrier. You have to keep going through barrier after barrier
Right.
until you succeed to where you want to end up.
Got to keep breaking down walls.
Yes.
You got to keep breaking down walls. Well, that's a good image. And let's pursue that a little bit because in leadership, the people who make change for better or for worse, but we want to make better change in this class, not worse. Those are the people who have the courage to break down the walls wherever they are. Now, the question is, why are you attempting to break down a wall? Why are you attempting to change something? Your objective may not be very good. So we have to be always conscious of the fact that there are people who have the courage, they have the energy, they have the desire to break all the walls in the world. But what will they put in place? Maybe something worse. Okay, so we want to break the walls as leaders, but for positive change. That's where we're going. Okay, Daniel? Yeah, go ahead.
And, I have a question for Augustine, and also just a thought. I was thinking, um, based on the discussion we're having right now, that uh, you have to understand being a global leader or becoming a global leader, there are 4 things you need to do.
Okay, yeah, keep somebody's yeah, just watch it. Somebody's got their it's not muted. So keep going, Daniel.
Okay. For you to be a global leader or becoming a global leader, or for you to be able to cause changes, there are forces that you need to deal with. And just like after was saying, yeah, there are some internal forces like within the country, and there are also external forces like the world powers who are actually backing the regime.
Yes.
Because if you don't understand these things, it should be very difficult for you to be able to uh, cause the right change you
You want.
you want.
You want, sure.
Then the question is I have for Augustine is that currently going on in Nigeria right now, I'm aware that things are not really the right thing or things are not really going in the right direction it should be. If you be or if you have the opportunity, what kind of change will you want to effect?
Are you from Nigeria too? Interesting. So we have two night
Yeah,
Augustine, could you
let me
answer
try.
that? Great question. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Yeah.
Um, Politics is is very dynamic and it's complex. Even despite a situation that the situation Nigerians are facing back home, there are still some people that are benefiting, from the system. Even recently, I heard there were kind of protests in the country. On the other hand, there are still people that were protesting against those that were protesting. I, I believe sustainable change demand a collective responsibility. The forces
Yeah.
that you know I personally I may deal with if perhaps I'm in the hands of affair, you know, it may be settled politically that some people are saying that things are not going well, but on the other hand, some people they may view it differently. So, but based on the complexity of political dynamics in Nigeria, and I believe collective responsibility
Yeah.
is the only way uh, to effect that change. It's not just one man's show because you, even as a politician, most of the time you have to collaborate, you have to negotiate. You may actually have a good vision, but if perhaps even the Congress, like you cannot liaise or collaborate with other forces. That vision, that's why it's a good vision for the country. It's gonna die. So the question is not just about that you asked me. Is not yes or no answer. So this is the best way I can frame the answer back to you.
Sure, sure. Daniel, do you agree that collective responsibility is the only way to affect positive change, or is there something else?
For me, collaboration or trying to collaborate with other agencies or other external body or um, let me say the parties that are involved, if they are willing to collaborate, it will work. But when you have people with different mindset, because I've come to really understand that the most difficult people or the most difficult things you can deal with on this earth are people. Because why? They can appear to you to come to you, oh, I'm with you. They can come to you and even plan the change with you.
Sure.
But deep down is something else. So human beings are really, really complex and very difficult to work with.
Well, I love the fact that this force of complexity is resonating with you all since last week. This is excellent. You're mentioning it now. I'd like to bring Aftab back in to help us understand something difficult here. Aftab, you're good? Yeah. Can you come back in for a second? Great.
Yes, Prof.
Okay.
I'm here.
So here we enter the difficult part of today's class, okay, when it comes to taking action. We've established that there are things that need action on. And in the situation of Bangladesh, clearly some action was needed. People were dying because of corruption in some ways in the building code. There was a need for democratic change. It's happened. But then, when you decide you want to make change, you now have to do the real hard work of bringing that change about. And this is where you come face to face with complexity. Aftab, when you were
Mhm.
beginning to investigate how to change the building code, when you were deciding what you wanted to do, how did you deal with that complex challenge and not get defeated? Could you answer
Well,
that?
Prof, to be very honest, uh, we have found the problem. We have reached to the problem, but we couldn't solve the problem because we had to go beyond our capacity. So we were trying to get into that. But there is a saying in Bangladesh that when you don't have enough space or your back is at the wall, you go up
You go
because there
up.
is no space. Yes, because there is no space to go back to get back. So if you have no place rather than wall, if your back is stuck at the wall, you go up. It's a Bengali
Say
proverb.
that. I just want to make sure I get that down because this is the really important part of the class when we talk about the reality of
Right.
bringing about. And Daniel, you're talking about the complexity of all of this. So how do we deal with this? So Aftab, you're saying that in Bangladesh there is a saying that when your back is against the wall or there's no
Yes.
space, you go
Yes.
out or up.
You go up because
Up.
it's like you try to get out of the box. That's the actually meaning, the inner meaning. You
Yeah.
try to get out of the box, because if you are boxed. So the thing is, not only this issue, there was the main issue in Bangladesh was also uh, the quota. There was a quota in the government job in Bangladesh, where 76% was held by quota for the government jobs, and only 24% was 23% was in merit based. And uh, the freedom fighters quota was the most, the 30%. The freedom fighters were like the son or daughter of a freedom fighter of Bangladesh, because Bangladesh got freed from Pakistan in 1971. The son or daughter of the freedom fighters get the will get free tuitions from universities, will get monthly stipends, and also they will get the first jobs in Bangladesh, the government jobs. So those are where the priority of for the freedom fighters ward or freedom fighters children. So the overall people actually shouted out that it's been 52 years, and still the freedom fighters children are getting facilities, because the children didn't fight. Actually, I'm also son of a freedom fighter. My late father was a freedom fighter in 1971, but I never applied. So it was a news in Bangladesh that it was discussed in many places that I never applied for any kind of extra government facilities or any tuition fees free, or any government job. I never applied for any government jobs. So apart from this, like actually the whole thing started like this. The students actually protested against the government, and in this situation, the government at first stopped the entire communication except phone calls. The internet was shut down. There was an internet blackout for 6 days, and they put people in every television channel, every radio stations, every newspaper, so they cannot write anything against the government. So these were the things started initially, and in between in between these 20 days of fights and protests, more than 1200 people unofficially died, and people found their mass graves in many places after 5th August. So more than 1200 people died, killed actually. More than 1200 people killed, more than 6000 people got injured. Almost 5000 of them got their eyes busted, because there was rubber bullets and cluster bullets fired at the students. So the overall injury was around 10,000. So within these 20 days, uh, 10,000 people gave something, a part of their bodies. 1200 people died, and then we got the road march to the prime minister's house. So the video that was playing at the screen, the
Yes.
students are eating from the you can see a
Yes.
student is actually eating. It's footage of the prime minister's house. People road marched. It's not one or two people, million and million people road march to the government house, the prime minister's home. The army, the police, they all fled away, and there was no government, no system, no nothing till August 10th. So there was total anarchy going on in Bangladesh. So this was the toll for the freedom of Bangladesh. We call this Bangladesh 2.0 because now we are planning, we have an interim government for 1 or 2 years. They will announce democratic election maybe after 2 years. But 10,000 people directly give something from their body, lost one of their body parts. 1,200 people died. Many got killed in other manners, maybe due to the electricity blackout or the communication blackout. Many died in the hospitals, and there was total massacre for 20 days in Bangladesh. And government still tried in these 20 days. Many protesters got arrested and killed. many journalists got killed. I have some. I know a couple of journalists personally. They got killed. They got fired in the open place. And I around my home, because the police was firing bullets from the helicopter from the up. A kid, a 3-year-old kid, died next to my building because she was playing at her balcony with she was playing to she was 3 years old, and suddenly a bullet hit her. So this kind of like unlisted deaths, tolls,
Yes,
and everything.
yes.
Best. Thank
This
you.
is this
So
is such good.
yeah,
Let me stop for a second
sorry, I'm
because
getting emotional.
no, but you're coming to the critical part of today's class, at least where I'd like to take the conversation to help you understand what we're talking about here. Hold your thought for a second, Vicky, okay? And then I'll come to this. Aftab, we'll let you go in 5 minutes, okay? And then we're going to do a little activity together. But I want you to be part of at least this final part of the conversation. And we're just skimming the surface
Sure,
today
boss.
with Aftab. But here is my question to you all. You do not need to answer this right now. Okay, so for all of you online, if you're still there, please listen. And for those of you watching the recording, you must listen to this because it's very important. Any good leader will tell you you need to be prepared to make sacrifices.
Right.
We could talk about religions of the world and the great prophets. But one thing that religions teach us, great religions, is the sacrifices that the prophets in any religion have made for something beyond themselves. Is there anything in your life? Let me rewind. Is there anything that you care about enough that you would be prepared to give your life for that is not about you? Think about what Aftab has just told us. All of these people have died for something that they thought would help others and make their society better. If in your mind you say to yourself, no, I can't do that, that's okay. You don't have to be a person who gives their life for a greater cause, for the common good, for something bigger than yourself. You don't have to. However, if you want to really lead, if you want to do something, you will have to be prepared to make sacrifices. Are you ready to do that? Do you know what sacrifice means? Do you understand that if you are part of a team, you are part of a government, you're part of a business, you're part of an initiative, you're part of anything in which you want to make change and lead? Are you prepared to make sacrifices? If you're not, I would say to you, you probably are not ready to step into a position of leadership. That's all. But please don't feel when you walk out of today's class that if you answer the question, I can't do that, Lonnie, he's just asking too much, that somehow you're less of a person, you're not good enough. It just means you're not quite ready yet. And you're going to have to experience things in life more. You're going to have to think about the world more. And then you'll be ready, as Aftab has done, to make sacrifices, as the people around him have done to make some sacrifices. That's all. You may just need more time. So please think about this, and maybe in your participation reflection that you do for those who are just watching the recordings and you have to give a reason for your question, that may be a question you ask, and the reason you might give for it is something along the lines I've given. But for other of you, I'd like you to just think about that. Okay. So, Aftab, before we come to Vicky and we carry on with the discussion and we have a little team activity, let's conclude the conversation for now. And I would like to, if possible, and your time is okay, perhaps have you back again as a guest this semester. We'll see how things go. But we have an amazing election happening in November in the United States. The biggest democratic superpower in the world is going through a historic election, and the forces could never
Right.
not be more clear. You have a person named Donald Trump who has been convicted in a court of law by an independent jury. You have a criminal, essentially, who is running for president, who wants to take the United States back to a much more authoritarian time. You have a woman who is also running for something different, for change. It's an incredible moment. Perhaps you can join us the week before for our class where we really explore democracy and the idea of what democracy means in greater detail before the American election. But we'll stay in touch, okay? So, is there anything you'd
Sure,
like to
Prof.
say to conclude? To conclude, and then we'll let you go.
Well,
Please go ahead.
you were talking about sacrifice. I didn't sacrifice anything, but almost got. I think I have talked to you that I had to send my wife to her mom's house because I was about to get arrested by the government before the 5th of August, and suddenly the prime minister had to flee away because I was with the students in the protest.
Yes.
Yes, I was not in the field because of the instructions by the university, but I was trying to I was working at the back end, because many of my students got arrested. Like we had to make our the student we had to work for the students. 16 of our students were arrested and in the police stations, so we had to talk to the police and get them out from there. And I had from my department, 3 students got shot by the bullet, so we had to make a medical camp at our university. Our university was like, if you are a student, Bangladeshi student, if we are in the protest, then here is your free medical checkup. The medical
Yes.
camp
Yes.
was the field of our university. So we were working there, but somehow the government got the news that we are working, and they actually planned to arrest us on 4th of August. But on the 4th of August, one day we had lost more than 200 people, and on the 5th of August in the early morning, the prime minister had to decide that she is fleeing away. Now she is in India. India has her for more than 2 months, so we are good now without her, thank God.
So there's a good chance that had she remained in power and stayed in Bangladesh, you perhaps would have
I
go
would
to
have
jail.
been in the underground jail from of August 4th, because they planned to capture me and some of my colleagues on August 4th. So maybe right now I was in the mirror house. I was supposed to be there.
Thankfully, many other people sacrificed their time and their lives to go into the streets and bring about change. But wow, let's stop for a second. There's so much here. I hope we can have you back, Aftab. Just
Sure, Prof.
watching your journey over the years, you've given us enough.
Thanks.
I'm going to let Vicky ask and speak before you go, and then we're going to
Okay.
conclude our class together. But could we all give Aftab just a big hand for thanking for his, and those of you watching the recording as well, give him a hand and say a little prayer of thanks to your God or your God. And the fact that
Thank you.
he's still here.
Actually, I
Go ahead.
nothing. All the students, I was morally with them. I was sending texts, messages, and online uh, with them, motivation things. But I didn't stand. I couldn't stand with them in the streets in front of the bullets. Actually, this round of hands or clap goes to the students who sacrificed everything.
Yes, yes.
And I am proud of as a teacher, because many of my students was there and they were fighting for their life, and they did it. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
actually, they earned my respect. Actually, this clap goes for them, nothing for me, because I'm a teacher. I was just trying to save my students. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And for the students, I mean, a big round as well for giving us the example of taking action for positive change. But they're no longer here. So they sacrificed their lives, we might say. Vicky, please go ahead. It's a powerful question, Vicky, and we can ask that all the time. Let's hear Aftab's thoughts on this. Can we build a better world with less damage to people? This is one of the most difficult questions we can all ask, but it's also a question you can ask no matter what you lead, a project at school, a bigger initiative. Do people have to suffer for the advancement of your cause? Maybe they don't. Aftab, what are your thoughts on this?
Yes. Uh, I guess I couldn't hear her. I think the same problem, but
Vicky, hold on.
The
Yeah.
mic's off.
Okay, go ahead. Vicky, go ahead and ask,
I
okay?
think
I wonder why you
yes,
didn't hear me.
microphone was
Oh, go ahead and ask.
So my
okay. The
question
microphone was off. I guess her question was, how can we make a better world with less damage? Is it the question?
Yeah, I'll let her ask it. Vicky, go ahead.
I said
Okay.
with like my experience with doing like advocating with the government and stuff, I was able to do it without having damage or having harm to people, without putting people in the way of pretty much getting hurt. Is there a way that you can facilitate it in your country? I know your country is different from our country, but is there a way that you could somehow make a change without having?
You need a tiny bit of background about Vicky, Aftab, just so you know. You've just heard from a student. I'll just state it very briefly, okay? Just give him the background.
Yeah.
She's 22 years old right now. When she was 16, she was still functionally more or less, she couldn't read.
Yes, I was illiterate.
She was illiterate. She took it upon herself to learn how to read, to get educated. She eventually did, but not only that, she organized a campaign to have the government, our government in Ontario, change its laws to help students who have this disability get the help they need.
Mhm.
And the Minister of Education at the time
Previous.
stood up in the legislature and personally thanked Vicky for her campaign before the government then changed its policy. So when she asks if it's possible to bring change without violence, she has real
Mhm.
experience behind this, right?
Yeah.
Is that fair? Okay.
Yes.
So Aftab, would you be able to answer Vicky's question? Go ahead.
Well, Prof, Vicky, it's a bit critical. Like life isn't same everywhere. It's a
Yeah.
philosophical answer, I would try to say, because your fight was not against the government. Your fight was with against the illiteracy, and with the government. The
Yeah.
government helped you, but if we can do anything without violence, I think the world would have been much more better place. We can see in Russia and Ukraine. We can see in the Middle East, Palestine, Israel, and the Arab countries. There is nothing going with peace.
Mhm.
When it comes to freedom in independence, I think it takes a lot of toll on people. Many people died since the past 2000 5,000 years. When it comes to independence, independence, it takes a toll. It takes life. It takes everything, because we as a a human, we are not yet at as advanced mentally that we can do everything with violence. Because yes, in the if we go to the developed nations, and if we go to the developing nations like Bangladesh, it's the same. We human fight and we create violence to dominate. Your fight was great, but actually, I'm sorry, it was not against a government or against freedom. But when it comes to freedom, it is not required violence, but violence occurs because no one is giving you freedom without anything.
Yeah.
You know who might be an
Uh,
interesting person, who
that's what
might be
I
an
believe.
interesting role model? Aftab, a role model for you in understanding this a bit more is a young woman who's brought so much change in climate
Yes.
change, Greta Thunberg.
Mhm. I've heard her.
Think so.
Right.
Imagine this
Right.
situation, okay, globally. Imagine if the government and others did not listen to you, which is what happened with Greta Thunberg. What she did at 13 or 14 is she parked herself on a street day after day after day until people started to come to her. She wasn't violent.
No.
But one has to ask the
Listen.
question, if you are so frustrated when you are not getting the change you need, is violence the next step? Just think about that. You don't have to answer that, okay?
I would never resort to
Right,
that in
bro.
my life.
You never would resort. And that then, how would you have the patience
And fortitude.
and fortitude to hang in there year after year after year until we
Something-
see, because violence is fast,
Yeah.
but the slower change can take time.
That's true. It's just peeling it away.
Peeling it away. At
Yeah.
any rate, there's so much here about change and taking action that is food for thought. I want to let Aftab go. We've given him a round,
Yeah.
one more round for a great conversation, and we're going to conclude
Thank
the
you.
class. We can definitely let you go, and I'm going to say to all of you, just because I see time,
meeting you.
5 minutes left, 5 minutes left. I'm not going to go into teams. We don't have time, okay? I would rather end the class on time and in a proper way, which is we're ending with some good insight that we can think about. However, in these last 5 minutes, I want to make sure I review a couple of things that are important, because there are some changes with the class, slight changes that were posted on DC Connect, just about the participation mark. I want to make sure everybody understands, okay? If you haven't seen the announcement that I posted on DC Connect, here's how it works, the participation mark in this super flexible class where people are participating. Just to repeat what I've said, but I've added a slight change. If you come in person like this, and you complete the one question at the end that you post on the discussion board. Now, there's a discussion board for every class on DC Connect. You'll see there's a folder for the class 1, class 2, class 3. Go into that folder today, for example, for class 3. You'll see discussion board. And at the end of the class, just post your question there. That's all. You don't have to post anything else. Just one question that you think is important to ask based on today's class. You do that, and the question is clearly written, you get your 3 out of 3, your 1.5%, okay? No problem. That's for the in-person students. For the Cosmos students, if you do the same thing and you put a question in the discussion board, just like the in-person students, you would get 2 out of 3. But Peta, Ariel, everyone listen closely, because this is how you get your full marks. If you want the 3 out of 3, you have to do what the asynchronous students are doing. And here's what they're doing, and it's all posted. For the recording students, for you to get your 3 out of 3, you have to post a question in the discussion board, and you have to write in 175 to 200 words the reason why you've asked that question. That's how you get your 3 out of 3. So all you have to do for your 3 out of 3 is you come to class, you do the question. That's it. Clear? You good? In the cosmos, Peta, did you understand? Just give a thumb up if you understand what I just said. You good? Ariel, did you understand? Good. Okay. For the students watching the recordings, if you have any issues with this, just email me. You can do that. My email is always on DC Connect. I am always going to encourage all of you to come in person. That's why the way to get your participation mark most easily, 3 out of 3, is to be here. I can't stress enough, and I will say this again and again. If you want to develop your leadership skills, if you want to get as much from this class as you can, you need to interact with other students, and we will be doing that a lot more in the classes. You need to be in this circle, but you don't have to be, okay? So I don't need to stress this all the time, but the reason I stress this one thing is because I'm deeply worried at what I see in the world today, which is we have all of these wonderful tools at our disposal of connecting. And we're losing, potentially, in my estimation, it's just my fear, humans are gradually starting to lose their ability to interact with other human beings. And they rely on their technology a lot to do that. That's not good for humanity. That's not good for your life as a leader. Okay? So that's why I'm always saying, come in person, make it a priority. You need these human skills. Okay, finally, before we go, let Augustine have the final word, and then you have your question to do after. You can do it between now and next class, discussion board, so you have time. No worry, okay? Last week, there were no questions asked of you because I forgot, so everybody's getting 3 out of 3 for last week, not to worry, okay? Okay, Augustine, go ahead, please.
Andre, I sent you a message yesterday night, but I just
Okay.
going through discussion post. I think it's still empty.
It's because you were too quick. Last night, I finally created all the discussion boards at home, so you
Okay.
shouldn't have that problem today. If you do, just email me, okay? And I will help you. But the discussion boards are open for all of my classes now for the first 3 classes. You shouldn't have trouble. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You didn't see it this morning? Okay, we're going to do a little check offline to make sure everything should be there. And I'll check with you. I want to end the class, okay? Because we're running out of time. Take care, Aftab, and I hope
you, Prof.
your wife is well, and we'll talk soon, okay? Thank
Sure,
you
Prof.
again. And Ajoy,
Bye
if you're
bye,
there,
everyone.
take care. Okay.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. We're going to end the class now, and then we'll just check online, and I'll save the live chat. Yeah. Oh, you've got it? Okay. You take care. Yeah, great. Okay, so let's do this. I'll turn my microphone off.